episode 1. Gotta throw that out there.
That was recording.
I know. I don't mind talking a little bit over the intro tune.
All right. Well, here we are, everybody. This is episode 1, the first podcast that we're doing. And we thought it would be apropos to talk about our stories, both Don and myself, Rob, and how we came to be as Mock the Agency.
We're going to call it an origin story episode.
An origin story episode.
How did we get our superpowers?
In the beginning.
What is your superpower?
What is mine?
Yeah. Yours is letters. Mine is drawing.
Well, clearly mine's podcasting. All right. Why don't you kick us off, Don, and tell us how you
it's been an interesting journey. So I'm the son of an entrepreneur who's the son of an entrepreneur, right? So my grandparents had mock flowers. My dad had mock photography. And I knew that I did not want to be a photographer, having grown up helping my dad do photo stuff, right? So I think it was only a matter of time before I definitely wanted to at least try something out on my own at some point, right? So I think, bouncing around various different agencies, design firms, all sorts of stuff, mostly here in Atlanta. I think the turning point for me was that the last firm I was at, working for others, and coming to that realization that I kind of stopped learning what to do and started learning more of how not to do things, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't, hey, I'm learning how to art direct this, or I'm learning how to take these, project start to fruition or whatever. It was really more like, ooh, I wouldn't do it that way. Or, ooh, I wouldn't handle it that way, right? More from a management style, I guess, as you sort of start to climb the ladder, right? So, that is kind of what started me on wanting to break out and sort of go it alone, right? Starting small, freelance on my own, started, freelancing for a little bit of time, and then slowly controlling. That's not a word. Slowly and controlled, I guess, starting to sort of, dare I say, build a little company, right? So,
what was it about your dad and his photography business? You said, I knew I didn't want to be a photographer. Why is that?
Yeah, great question. I think mostly because you wake up, my parents own the business together, right? And it was, hey, we're talking about business. We're talking about photography business at breakfast.
Right.
We're coming home, we're eating dinner. We're talking about photography business. And then my dad would go down to the darkroom and then develop photos and stuff all night, right? And then he was not a commercial photographer. He was more of the weddings, portraiture, all that sort of stuff, right? So all weekends monopolized by working for others.
Darkroom.
Yeah. So a lot of darkroom time. I mean, when you're a kid, the magical world of photography is super cool, right? You're down in the dark room, you got the red lights on, you're dodging and burning, like images are coming up out of nothing. It's super cool, right?
Right.
But I don't think, it wasn't for me, I guess. I think his grandparents always thought that he would take over the floral business, and that didn't happen. And I think he always thought I might take over part of the photography business, and that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
So. And I love photography. I think photography is great, but I love it as a tool set in what we do more here, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, there's different creative things that some you want to keep as hobbies. Yeah. Others you can turn them into a job.
Exactly.
And I think there's a difference.
Exactly. So I guess flipping the script, before we get into how we formed together, because I did a little bit of a quick sort of backstory of right up until, working for other people until starting to decide to go on my own. I mean, how did you end up wanting to become an entrepreneur, or dare I say not wanting to become an entrepreneur? And then we can talk about how we joined forces.
Yeah. So my story goes, I was in college and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was majoring in English. I knew
Sounds like college.
I knew I liked writing, creative writing, and that sort of thing, but I didn't really know what to do with that. My father is a bankruptcy attorney, and I can assure you that was never in the consideration set for me. But he has his own practice and did forever. So I think there's part of that sort of entrepreneurial spirit there.
For sure.
But I was looking for an internship, and I ended up getting a dog from this woman who ran one of your neighbors, actually.
Really?
Peggy
lived in the neighborhood that I live in now.
Yeah, she lived right on.
Interesting. Did you come to the neighborhood to get the dog?
It was in the back of her house. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I got the dog, and anyway, we kind of became pals. And she was like, "Oh, I've got an agency in my backyard advertising, and if you need an internship, you could do that."
Interesting.
So great. That way I can bring the puppy over to play, and I'll try that. That seems okay. So anyway, I did that. Long story short, I ended up graduating and then went to work for a firm here in Atlanta. But
Wait, I got to back up real quick. The agency was in her house?
It was in her. She
the
had a
backyard?
carriage house.
Oh, she did. Okay.
She had a carriage house. She was right on. What's the main road going into the neighborhood?
Wakefield?
No.
Brighton?
Brighton. She was right on Brighton on the left-hand side. I can't believe I'm blanking on her last name right now.
Doesn't matter.
But I was doing kind of media planning and media work for her. So
All right.
I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's what you do.
Yeah, got it.
So I joined a big agency here in town, Atlanta, and started doing media planning. And was there for a couple of years. And in that time, sort of figured out that I was on the lame side of the business.
Yeah, the media side. It's,
The media side.
sounds like spreadsheets.
Yeah, I mean, in looking back, it was great because I got a great education, and I still use a lot of those things today.
For sure. How do you carve up the budget? Where does the money go?
Yeah, exactly. But I was like, I got it. This is all the creators are down there in T-shirts, writing ads, and doing the fun stuff.
Having fun,
having fun. So I went back to school and built a writing portfolio, and then came out of school and then started writing and wrote for several shops here in town. And then how did I start? I just sort of started. I had a creative partner who I worked with at my first job here in media, actually.
Okay.
Steven.
Yeah.
And he and I sort of partnered up and formed a shop and had a good little run. And that's when I met you.
But was there a tipping? I'm going to go back though. Was there a
Yeah.
tipping point for leaving working for somebody else and then going off on your own?
Yeah, I forgot about that. It's a really good story, actually. In my mind, it was my sister. It was my sister's. The day of my sister's rehearsal dinner.
Okay.
At which I had to give a speech and all of these things, and I was all nervous. So I woke up that Friday and went into work. I won't say the name of the company, but I got to work and the doors were locked.
Yes, I've heard the story. Clink, 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 clink,
Business
clink.
closed, no severance, no job, no nothing.
We're done here.
We're done here. And so that was, I think, the moment I was like, well, I'm not going to let that happen again.
There was no phone call, no nothing.
No.
How did you? Was there any communication with these people ever? No, it was just full. Shut the door. We're done.
Funny enough,
It's fascinating.
Again, I won't mention names, but I'm still in contact with the guy who ran the agency. And in fact, my father was his bankruptcy attorney.
Small town Atlanta.
Small town Atlanta.
That's fantastic.
So I think it was at that moment that I was like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not going to let somebody else do that.
Well, there's always something
again.
to. Hey, you can always go back and work for somebody else.
Yeah.
There's that weird
Right.
tipping point of your life where it's like, I know it's considered risky to sort of start your own thing. I don't necessarily view that or share that same opinion, but like, if you flop, you just go back to
Right.
what you used to be doing.
I think it's true. And I think also too, there's at least for me, there was a naivete that was like,
sure.
I'll just start a business.
Yeah.
How hard can it be?
Yeah.
And then I think that sort of gets to your point where, okay, well then you really start learning by failing or learning how not to do things.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you
for
sort
sure.
of figure it out from there. But that was kind of how I got to the.
Okay, so you've got your own shop and you're doing your own thing, right?
Yeah.
So then how we met each other was I was creative director at an agency here in town, and we used this one writer all the time on this one piece of business, and he moved along and recommended you, right?
Yep.
And then we partnered together on that one account for, gosh, a number of years, right?
More from Kellogg's and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. 3 years? I don't even know how many
Yeah.
years. 4 years, something like that?
Several.
But yeah, all the Kellogg's food away from home, everywhere you'd consume Kellogg's or Keebler products, not in the grocery store, right? So it was all the non-grocery store stuff. It was fun to work on. I really
Yeah, it
enjoyed
was
working.
fun. That was just creative, hired
Yeah,
stuff. And then conversely, my shop had Comcast. We had the Southeastern division of Comcast, for which we did a lot of TV and fun stuff like that. And I would hire you as a creative gun to come in and work on TV and
exactly.
ads and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it was fun. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting that we did have the benefit of kind of working together on somebody else's dime, right?
Right.
For quite a number of years before truly joining forces, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing that for a long time. I reached that point where I'm like, hey, I'm done. There's nothing really I can learn from this place anymore. That was a crazy story on how I left that, but I'll save that for another podcast, right? So go off on my own, floundering around. You know,
What year was this?
I left in 2007 officially, right? And then the incorporation of this business was actually in March of 2008. So call it middle of 2007. You know, just freelancing, doing a lot of different things for different agencies, getting my own little clients and things like that, right? And then in March 2008, I think my CPA was, you got to do taxes or whatever the deal was.
Yeah.
And it was like, you need an official name for you have the weekend to think of a name for the business, right?
Right.
So I was like, okay, Mock Inc., that's what it's going to be, done. Like, we'll figure out the rest of the naming later, right? And then it's funny how those things live on for another 15 years, right? So I'm puttering around doing my own thing. You are doing your own thing with Steven, right? But you guys are starting to get to your separation point as well, right? Because we started going out to lunch all the time. Is what
We started going out to lunch, and I think at the time, if you remember the climate, financial climate, and the business climate,
well, we're headed towards
we're headed towards the cliff.
yeah.
And I think just, you know, oftentimes as creative partners do, we were starting to see things. My other partner and I sort of see things a little bit differently and where we wanted to go. And I think he was looking for a little bit more security in things, and I was a little bit more of just kind of wanting to keep doing something. Freedom.
Yeah.
Right. So I think then, you and I started going out to lunch and talking, and I think working more and more together. And
a little bit.
You were over. You can tell that.
I was over
about
where?
over around the corner.
In the Mind's Eye space? Yeah. I was renting an office from a production studio here in town,
Right.
Named Mind's Eye, right? And so I had my office there, and then it was, I think your office was over in Studioplex. Is that where it was?
We were over in Studioplex.
Right. Yeah. And then it was a little bit of like, hey, let's just.
Well, but you had the mothership. Tell that part of it.
Was I already with the mothership? See, I don't even know my own origin story.
You were. I don't know at what point.
Okay. You want?
of-
Okay. Yeah. So what happened was, I was leasing space over there, and there was a conglomerate company based out of St. Louis, right? That had bought up a bunch of different production houses. Mind's Eye being one of those, right? So they had all the different avenues of advertising, right? Direct mail, photography, video, printing, all the different peripheries from a production standpoint, but not the front or the tip of the spear being the creative side, right? So to your point, Rob, we were headed towards financial ruin, right? I mean, like the economy was about to implode, right? And it was, hey, there's definitely a safety in numbers play, right? So I had kind of been floating around for a year. This was
2008.
This was the end of 2008,
Right.
And so floating around, and decided to basically sell the business, what little business I had, sell the business and be acquired by this larger conglomerate, right? Sort of with the premise of increased sales funnel, because there's other companies out there, you know, turning over rocks and things, trying to find creative opportunities, right? And then, hey, just focus on what we do best, which is doing awesome creative work for people, right? And so, so I kind of, I believe I had already joined, and then it was, hey, a paycheck and benefits and all that good stuff, right? So I had joined that, and then kind of lured you over, I believe, right?
And then we were closing down the other shop, and you and I had a series of conversations, and you were like, "Hey, you should come partner up with me." And we're owned by this other company, and paychecks and benefits and all these great things.
Yeah.
And that was December of 2009.
December of 2009, I think, is when you officially joined.
Is when I officially joined.
Yeah,
I think it was we were working together before that, but that was when I signed the
correct.
paperwork.
Correct. So I can't tell you. I mean, I'm bad with dates. I don't remember how long we were with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the short story is we did that for a couple years. Was it a couple years?
A year and a half, 2 years.
I can tell you what it was because I remember.
We have our letters. We have our separation letters.
We have our separation letters.
Which we still have never framed and hung in the office. We need to do that.
I want to say it was December. I want to say it was 2010.
Okay.
I think it was 2010. Anyway, long story short, we were not seeing eye to eye.
No, I think the phrase that pays was on one of the calls with their corporate treasurer or CFO. It was, where we see success, you guys see failure.
Yeah.
Because they kept, allocating our GA differently and doing all this different. It was crazy.
And we were asking for, we weren't even asking for more money. We were asking for money for an intern.
Yeah,
we were
needed
overwhelmed with work.
Yeah,
we wanted to build this thing.
I mean, here's the great news as part of the story is, we were rocking.
Right.
We were crushing it.
Right.
Good things were happening. And it was, hey, we need a bigger presence here.
Infrastructure.
Like
We
we're
need-
drowning
yeah.
in work,
And they said no, and we said, alrighty.
Yeah, this was on a. I do remember this. It was on a Friday, and I remember hanging up the phone. We're on speakerphone, and hit the button, and I think we looked at each other, and it was, did we just fire ourselves, or did we just get fired, or how did
Yes,
that? It was
we
something,
did.
And it was all right. Well, let's take the weekend. Let's think about what we're gonna do.
Right.
And again, I think the economy was still in a weird spot, but then we had to sort of come back on Monday and figure out if we wanted to untangle the Gordian knot of being part of this other company or not, right? And long story short is we did. We untangled the Gordian knot, got our company back, went full independent,
But
right?
stayed friendly with them and stayed in that, just continued to lease space over there.
Yeah, for sure. We stayed over there for a little while until we ended up with more employees that they had in that space.
Right.
And then I don't know, it wasn't contentious or anything, but it was very clear. It's like, okay, it's time for us to
We've
move on.
outgrown.
Yeah,
we've outgrown the space.
Yeah, we've outgrown the space. We're happy and laughing, and they're maybe not, right? So
Yeah. I'm just looking at our time. I don't know how long we go on these things. We'll just keep babbling.
we go until we're done. We go until the story is told.
Yeah,
How about
that's
that?
true.
We're
That's true.
storytellers, bud.
That's
you know?
right. That's right.
So that was So I guess I don't know what's the math on 2023 minus 2008, right? That's how long. That's how long it's been rocking and rolling. And
And so then we left there and went in search of our own home
correct.
and found
Found a great little spot on 14th
a
Street.
great little spot where we continue to live.
Yeah.
Bought a bunch of dilapidated buildings.
Yep.
Much to the surprise of our real estate guy. He's like, I have to show you these buildings,
Yeah.
but they're
not
absolutely
gonna like 'em.
disgusting and you're
Yeah.
not going to like them.
I think within 3 minutes of standing in here, I remember you looking at me and saying, "I love them."
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah.
We should buy them immediately.
Yeah, and I think we need to put an offer in that day. It was
And
great.
we did. Yeah, we put in a full price offer that day, and
Yeah,
there were multiple offers, but we wrote a nice little letter. The guy
Yeah.
who owned the buildings had his own.
yeah, yeah. He had his own food distribution business of some sort.
So we bought those, and then we put in a little bit of time and sweat and money and rehabbed the buildings. And
Yeah, and that was what, end of 12, beginning of 13 is when we moved in, I believe.
yeah, I
right?
think that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and then been here since then. Mm-hmm. So that's a hell of an origin story.
That is a hell of an origin story.
Yeah, it's a good one. With no end in sight, still rocking and rolling. So
I think that's it. Is
Yeah.
that it for the origin story? And then we'll pick up next time. With,
I don't know that we have any other. I don't have any other questions. I think we're good.
So, yeah, we're good. All right, everybody.
Let's play us out.
Thanks to whomever decided to listen.
Yeah.
Talk
Say
again
play us
soon.
out.